Hey, are you a dependent student or are you an independent student? Parents, are your students dependent or are they independent? This is a question that so many people, students and parents, ask me. I'm going to tell you what you need to know to dictate if you will be considered truly a dependent student or an independent student. If you meet one of the 10 pieces of criteria that I lay out for you, you will qualify as an independent student. Here we go. What's up, everybody, and welcome back. This is Josh with a grade above college planning. Hey, last video we talked about financial aid, we talked about EFC, and I also touched on dependency status. So when I talk about independent versus dependent, we're referring to when you apply for financial aid using the FAFSA. So how you are, based on your status, it really dictates how the calculation is going to be set for your EFC. So a common question that families always ask is my kid a dependent or are they independent? Or I get calls from students qualify or apply as an independent student because my mom and dad, they live in another state, they don't really help out, and I'm pretty much doing everything on my own. So I'm gonna lay out for you right here, we'll classify you, as a independent student. The 10th is it's one of those bonus situations, rare situations that's dictated by each school. So the 10th would be a little unique, but I'll explain in more detail when we get there. So once again, if you like this information, if you like the video, the content, and if you feel like this information can be valuable to someone else that you may know, especially if it's valuable to you, please like it, share it, or at least comment below if you have any specific questions or if you think I'm doing a good job and you like the information that you're receiving. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first reason that you would be considered, or your student would be considered a independent student, and we talked about this in the last video, is if they're actually pursuing a degree beyond their bachelor's degree. Students that are in an undergrad program and that live at home and mom and dad are, providing for them and taking care of them, they're not they may have a job, they may have savings, but they're not considered independent student. So the second reason is you have a child, you have dependents of your own as a student. So if you're a student going to college and you have dependents that you're caring for or providing some type of financial support to, you can be considered independent student because you have a dependent of your own. So if you're married, or even if you're married and separated but not divorced, you can be considered independent student. So the fourth reason you could be considered independent student is if you are over the age of 24. This is common when students kind of graduate high school and maybe take some classes at a junior college. They may get a job and then they decide that they want to go back to school and get a degree. Not so much common if you graduated high school, went to junior college for 2 years or a year, and then transfer into a 4-year university. Fifth reason you can be considered an independent student is if you served in the United States Armed Forces. So if you served our country as a part of our armed forces. Sixth reason you could be considered an independent student is if you're currently serving in our United States Armed Forces. So if you're serving for any reason other than training purposes, you also can be considered an independent student when applying for financial aid. Thank you so much for those of you that have served and are vets and that are currently serving. We appreciate you and I salute you. Thank you. So the seventh reason you can be considered an independent student is if since you turned 13, both your parents were deceased, they passed away, or if you were a foster child after the age of 13, or if you were a ward of the state or the court, you can be considered an independent student. The eighth reason you can be considered an independent student is if you were considered an emancipated child determined by a court judge. And the ninth reason you are considered an independent student is if you are homeless, if you are considered homeless and or determined to be homeless, you can qualify as an independent student. So if you meet any of those specific criteria and you're applying for financial aid, please, I encourage you, a best practice is to provide as much supporting information, supporting documentation as you can to your appropriate financial aid offices or administration office. The 10th reason, the tricky one, is if you don't meet any of those specific reasons prior to, and if there's that gray area, but you have a compelling reason on why you can be considered an independent student, school and each administration and financial aid office will have to review your situation to be compelling enough. So now you have a good understanding of the criteria that it takes to qualify as an independent student. So although parents, I know you want your student to be as independent as possible. Students, I think you often consider yourselves to be independent, but based on the metrics or based on the rules that outline the definition of what it means to be an independent student, a lot of times you may find out that you don't actually qualify. You don't meet any of those standards. So hopefully this information was helpful. It is a common question that comes to me in some common situations where families often feel or think that they might qualify as an independent situation or have an independent student, but in all actuality, they don't. Traditionally, most students are considered a dependent student. So once again, this is Josh with the Grade Above College Planning. Thank you so much for checking us out. Be on the lookout for more information to come and have a phenomenal rest of your day. What you don't know can cost you. We'll talk to you soon.